You were born Roman, but not into marble villas or golden wreaths. You were born into dust, into duty, into a family that can't afford to keep you fed past your 15th birthday. And when the recruiter comes down the road promising coin, pride, and citizenship, you don't ask questions. You raise your hand. You're not drafted. You volunteer. The alternative is digging ditches in the sun until your spine bends like a question mark. Because being a legionary is the only way to leave home with a name worth remembering. But that name doesn't last long. Your first haircut is brutal. Your first bath is public. Your first meal, cold beans and hard bread eaten in silence. You wear your name like a badge until the centurion screams it wrong loud enough that it just sticks that way. You sleep on the floor, you rise before the sun, and you train until the taste of iron never leaves your mouth. Your armor is heavy, your shield is heavier. And your gladius? Short. Not for honor, for stabbing in the gut up under the ribs, then twisting. That part they teach you clearly. Everything else? You figure it out or die trying. They say a Roman legion marches on its stomach, which is funny, because most days yours is empty. You walk 20 miles carrying your gear, your tools, your tent, your rations, and if you're lucky, the guy next to you doesn't collapse halfway there, so you have to carry his too. By the end of the day, your boots are soaked through, with sweat, with mud, with blood. You pitch camp with hands that shake and a back that screams, because every Roman soldier is also a builder, a butcher, a blacksmith, and a mule. Your tent stinks. 8 men packed in tight, breathing each other's rot and snoring like dying oxen. You share fleas, you share gossip, you share nightmares, and if you're lucky, you wake up the next morning. Because sometimes you don't. You're shipped to Gaul, or Germania, or Britannia, which means forests too thick to see through and people who want your head on a spike. They don't fear you. Not yet, because they haven't met you, and you haven't met them. The first ambush is always the worst. Arrows in the fog, screams behind the trees. You raise your shield a second too late, and someone beside you doesn't get up. You hear the sword that kills him. You feel the warmth spray your face, and you never forget the smell. But you survive. You kill. You bury the dead if there's time, and if there's not, you leave them for the dogs, because the legion keeps moving, always. You don't know what month it is. You don't know what province you're in. You only know how many days it's been since the last letter from home, and when that letter does come, you read it slow, because it might be the last one. There is no off-duty. Even in peace, you're sharpening, stacking, building, drilling. The camp is your prison, and the centurion is your god. When he speaks, you don't just listen, you obey like your soul depends on it, because sometimes it does. Discipline in the legion is sacred, and punishment is a public ritual. You watch a man lashed until his back opens like a scroll. Another gets stoned to death by his own unit for falling asleep on guard. You learn fast. Fear keeps the line straight. Pain keeps it loyal. The battles blur. You fight tribes. You fight rebels. You fight other Romans sometimes. It doesn't matter. You plant the standard. You hold the line. You shout the chant and march toward death with your brothers at your side. You don't get songs. You don't get monuments. You get scars that won't heal and bones that don't set right. You get a tooth knocked out by the hilt of your own sword and an infection that makes your legs smell like meat left too long in the sun. You dream of retirement, of land, of a quiet life, of maybe, finally, growing old in peace. But the years drag on, and the quiet never comes. One night in Dacia, you stare into a campfire. You can't feel your fingers. You can't remember your mother's voice. The man beside you coughs blood and says nothing. You know he won't see morning. You don't cry. You just sharpen your blade. Sometimes you wonder what all this is for. But then you see the eagle rise on the battlefield, and even your broken body stands tall again. Because Rome might be far away, but she sees everything. When peace comes, it isn't gentle. It's a letter, a scroll, a discharge. You're no longer a legionary. You're a man again. You return home, older than your years. You've survived 10 winters and twice as many campaigns. Your hair is grey. Your knees ache. And the people in your village don't recognize you anymore. Some salute you. Some avoid you. You don't blame them. You barely recognize yourself. You're given land, a few coins, maybe a slave or two. But the land is rocky. The coins don't last. And the dreams never stop. Sometimes you wake in the dark, fists clenched, eyes wide, waiting for an alarm that never comes. Sometimes you miss it. And when you die, because everyone does, there's no marble, no scroll, just a plain wooden marker at the edge of your field, weathered by wind, forgotten by time. But for a while, you held the line. You bled for empire. You marched further than the maps reached. And when the world looked into the eyes of Rome, it saw you staring back. Still, for all the glory, the gods, and the gold they promised, being a Roman legionary, yeah, it sucked.